Well, hello there, watching the press preview. A first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what is making the headlines with the Daily Mail's consultant editor, Andrew Pearce, and the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire. Welcome and great to see both of you. Lots to talk about, obviously,
Hello.
so let's take a look then at the front pages. Starting with the Metro. The Metro looks at what appears to be growing momentum for Penny Mordaunt's campaign. Although she came second in the first ballot, she's consistently leading polls of party members who will take part in the final vote. Same angle for the Telegraph, which pictures the former Defence Secretary giving the thumbs up. The Eye describes her performance as a surge which will rattle her rivals. The Daily Mail leads with the message from Liz Truss to the party right that unless they unite now, they will lose the leadership. The Sun says the remaining candidates have the six factor. But the Mirror attacks the candidates for focusing on tax cuts for the rich rather than helping people with the cost of living crisis. The Financial Times reports that growing inflation in the US is prompting calls for its central bank, the Federal Reserve, to raise interest rates. And on a lighter note, The Star carries findings about how many people take their dog to the pub. Well, a quick reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. Not sure why we need to know how many people take their dog to the pub, but anyway, Andrew Pearce and Kevin Maguire are here. Well, one woman's face, Andrew, is on many a front page. What's going on?
Well, you can never predict Tory leadership contests, Anna. They are unpredictable by their very nature, not least because the electorate involved, Tory MPs, don't always tell it as it is. Some might say they're duplicitous, but there's no doubt the momentum now in this campaign is with Penny Mordaunt. She's the International Business Minister. She's been Defence Secretary, albeit not for very long. She was an International Development Secretary, so she's had a raft of senior ministerial jobs. And what's really intriguing, not only is she in second place ahead of Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, who you might have thought would be further would have got more MPs, but a staggering poll, frankly, by YouGov today of Conservative Party members shows that Penny Mordaunt is way ahead. But when you put her head-to-head against the other candidates by a country mile, and here's the thing, Rishi Sunak, the darling of the, who's had such a slick, well-organised campaign, the darling of some of the party, he is on 27% to her 67%. She would knock him for 6. Now, that will really focus Tory MPs' minds as they vote tomorrow and then again next week, because they'll want to perhaps associate with the winner, not least because that way they get preferment, they get ministerial jobs. And if they think the momentum is going Penny Mordaunt's way, do they desert Sunak? Do they desert the Foreign Secretary? Who knows? But I think she's looking very, very well placed to be in the last two.
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, obviously, about who might actually win that poll. We've got till September for all of this to wash through. But we saw the Daily Telegraph there. Mordaunt seizes the momentum. The Metro as well, PM for PM. I mean, that's manna for heaven and a campaign slogan, isn't it? It's quite memorable. And the Eye as well, Mordaunt surge rattles rivals in the race for number 10. Who will be most panicking? Is it Liz Truss, Kevin?
I think so. Rishi Sunak will be worried too. But as you said, Anna, look, she's dominating all the headlines. Her picture is on most of the front pages. She is the one with momentum, and momentum in politics is all important. That slogan, PM for PM, it's the only slogan I can remember from any of the candidates. It's just fortunate for her. Her initials work for it. But Liz Truss has underperformed. And you look at that showing that 50 she got MPs back against 67 against Mordaunt. And of course, the Mail front page is saying, look, Truss is saying, look, the right has to unite or it'll lose. She means unite around herself, which will mean Suella Braverman and Kemi Badenoch pulling out. Braverman might pull out before the ballot. I could possibly see that. I can't really see Kemi Badenoch pulling out because she's doing quite well herself. And it's an extraordinary position and a bit of a turn up for the books, given that Sunak and Truss have been campaigning for months, if not years. Although I was speaking to a Labour shadow cabinet member tonight who said whenever She went along to events, and Penny Mordaunt was there. Everybody at the event, Labour MPs as well as Tory MPs, would get a little note from her afterwards. You're very polite. All that pays off. It's because she's a fresh face, but she'll come under scrutiny now, Mordaunt. You can't say she's a big break when, as Andrew said, she's been the International Development Secretary. She's been the Defence Secretary, as he said, not for very long. And she remains the Trade Minister in Johnson's regime and didn't resign to try and force him out. So you can't just say she's fresh, but people know very little about her. So the Conservatives can sell something they want, but she will come under scrutiny now. People would begin digging into what she said, what she would do. In a way, she's had an easy ride so far, or relatively.
Kevin, let's see. Andrew wants to come in. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I would say, though, is what Kevin's right to point out, she's been a minister for a long time, but she's not been in the cabinet. Rishi Sunak's trying to blame Boris Johnson for the huge tax rises. Sorry, he was the Chancellor of the Exchequer that's taken our tax burden to its highest level for 70-odd years. And Liz Truss, as Foreign Secretary, we know she opposed that in cabinet, and she did. She spoke out very loudly in cabinet against it, but she has been part of the Boris Johnson cabinet right from the very beginning. So she's very associated too. So people, MPs and Tory party faithful, are looking for a break, and a cleaner break would certainly be looking at Penny Mordaunt.
Yeah, but five of the six left in. Tom Tugendhat's the exception. They're ministers in the Johnson regime, and yet they're now running against their own government. They stood on a 2019 manifesto. Most of them voted to break the promises in it, blaming COVID. So you cannot just pretend the past is nothing to do with them. They've got to own their voting records and what they've done in it. If it was to cling on to red boxes, keep a chauffeur-driven car, and have an office, well, you've got to be held accountable for that. But there's no doubt that HMS Penny, and she's said to be named after HMS Penelope, which was a warship. I hope she'll hope to do better than that, because it sank with a huge loss of life in the Second World War. But she is ploughing ahead, and she could win it. And the Telegraph point out that in 1997, 2001, 2005, in those Tory leadership contests, the winner was who came second in the first round. So it was William Hague, Ian Duncan Smith, David Cameron. Of course, 2019. Boris Johnson won. That rule wasn't followed, but she could come from that second position. If she gets on the final two, then it looks like she will win it now and beat Sunak. His place is almost booked.
And so the question is, I suppose, is there any panic in the Conservative ranks, or in the parliamentary party at least, that actually somebody's winning it who's not very well known? We're talking about a general election in only a couple of years, Andrew. You've got to get up to speed really quickly, haven't you?
Yeah, but I don't think they are panicking at all. I think they're looking at her in the same way they looked at David Cameron a long time ago. Who knew who David Cameron was? Now, they were in opposition then, of course, but young, telegenic. They thought, oh, God, he could win. They look at Penny Mordaunt, and she's telegenic. She looks good. She speaks well. It was a very good launch today. She made some quite good jokes about the trans row that people have tried to get her involved in. And they think, actually, she's got plenty of time to convince the public. And it's always it will be difficult for Keir Starmer. I don't think Keir Starmer would particularly want to be up against Penny Mordaunt at the dispatch box. I don't think he'd mind Liz Truss so much, and he certainly wouldn't mind taking on Rishi Sunak, but because she is an unknown quantity, and actually at the dispatch box, she's very good. She's got a good turn of phrase, and she's very funny, which Keir Starmer certainly isn't.
Yes, and the Daily Mirror, your paper then, Kevin, cost of living crisis. What cost of living crisis? As it's revealed, struggling Brits use washing up liquid to clean their hair. What do Tory candidates suggest? Cut tax for the rich and slash the state. What does she stand for? We might as well use this opportunity to get to know her.
No, absolutely. And she will, as the hustings start, including on Sky, we will then begin to see. People may not like her as much as they do when they don't like her. There's no guarantee people will actually warm to her, but certainly in the cost of living. There's been so much focus on cutting the corporation tax rise. Well, that's 17 billion quid that'll go to mainly big companies. So you're going to need to focus on what people want, not what Conservative candidates to be Prime Minister want, because they're going for an electorate that doesn't, the party members, that does not reflect the country as a whole.
Andrew, did you want to come in?
I just want to say one thing. What's really interesting as well, we've been talking about how we know that Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss have been campaigning for the leadership, but Jeremy Hunt, who lost to Boris Johnson in 2019, has been virtually campaigning every day since, for the best part of 3 years. And it all ended today with 18 votes out of 358. A really brutal humiliation for Jeremy Hunt, who's a nice bloke, but really was never going to get the job. And I just don't know why he put his head above the parapet yet again. Why don't they know? When it's over, it's over.
Yeah, and suggesting today you only get one shot at this, and he had his back then. He, of course, tonight has come out in support of Rishi Sunak. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, that won't help much.
It'll be
that won't help much.
It'll be interesting to see where the votes of Nadim Zahawi and Jeremy Hunt go. And tomorrow we roll on to more hustings and another vote. Kevin, how do you think this one will shake down?
Yeah, no, that's right. They're going to start falling out. With what we're now down to that 6. Braverman will be out, I would have thought, next some way. And then what happens to Tugendhat, and can Kemi Badenoch overtake Liz Truss, because Sunak and Mordaunt are pulling ahead. Otherwise, Truss is going to be another big victory. She's just not done as well as she expected. The word in Westminster, she's going to make a big speech tomorrow. Well, she's a very poor public speaker, Liz Truss, unless she's going on about cheese and losing everybody. So I think her campaign is in quite serious trouble. You can now see the final two, Sunak and Mordaunt. And unless something come along, there's an event that changes the minds of those Tory voters, those Tory party members, which make up a tiny proportion of the country, it does look like it will be PM for PM.
And very quickly, Andrew, will the papers come out for a candidate? Is the Daily Mail got a chosen candidate?
We haven't said yet, no. We would want the candidate to be a Brexiteer, because we want to make sure Brexit, we really do start to get the benefits. I think it's fair to say we won't be supporting Rishi Sunak, because he's lumbered us with this huge tax burden, and we campaigned long and hard against those tax rises, but we've got them, and no other country in Europe appears to be putting taxes up, as we teeter potentially on the edge of recession. So it won't be him, that's for sure. And we like Jeremy Hunt very much, but we're very glad he's out as well.
OK. That could have been a whole programme, couldn't it? What the Daily Mail thinks about them. Anyway, lots more still to come, including worries over water shortages as the heat wave continues. We'll talk about that next. Watching the press preview with me once again, Andrew Pearce and Kevin Maguire. Welcome back to both of you. Kevin, let's go to Sri Lanka, shall we? First the President, now the Prime Minister's offices. Some extraordinary scenes there as they battle effectively government poverty, energy prices, lack of fertiliser, you name it.
I know, it's a real economic crisis for ordinary Sri Lankans who are struggling to survive. And it's a revolution. There's the president. He Gotabaya Rajapaksa, I think it is. Fled. He's gone off to the Maldives. The prime minister's stepping down. The brothers who were in command and treating the country as if it was a family business, well, they're paying a high price for it, because ordinary Sri Lankans have paid a high price. But you just hope it's going to remain relatively peaceful. The police would be told by the Prime Minister to do whatever is required during a state of emergency, but you hope the police and the army will just be sensible and understand people have genuine grievances. And with the president gone, the PM going, why defend them? Defend the people, not the politicians who plunge Sri Lanka into such a crisis.
Andrew, I was going to move on, but I think you want to say something about this as well.
But I just want to say, the odd thing is, it's a sort of almost prosaic thing which caused this. It was the banning of fertiliser imports, because they wanted to make the country more organic, completely destroyed the rice crop, which then caused all sorts of problems for the economy, price rises, and of course also the president and his brother are rotten and corrupt. And tourists have stopped going to Sri Lanka too, because of the pandemic and because of the terror attacks. And it's so sad, because it's such a beautiful, wonderful country.
Well, let's go to the heatwave, shall we? And the Telegraph and a number of the newspapers actually going on water shortages now. Water companies suggesting they're struggling to process and pump out water quickly enough. We certainly had no water at home yesterday and at a point today as well. So I know what they mean. But, I mean, there's been no rain in parts of southern Britain for a very long time properly now, Andrew.
I know, I get that, but it's always our fault, isn't it, with these water companies? Do you know how many gallons of water get wasted every year through leaks? I really mean it. It's equivalent of something like 1,200 Olympic-sized swimming pools every day in England and Wales disappear down the drain because these wretched water companies don't do their proper care and maintenance and sort the leaks out. It's a scandal, really, when you consider also how much they charge us for our water rates and how much the fat cat directors of the water companies are earning.
Yeah, but we've had both of those arguments for decades. Perhaps now, a little bit like gas storage, we need to work out that actually we need to save more of our winter rain, as we move forward. I don't know what solutions you can proffer, Kevin.
Yeah, it's very good, actually, to hear Andrew speaking out against another botched privatisation. Water's community-owned in Wales, but in England, it's a terrible privatisation, just like your rail terrible privatisation. Come on, Andrew, let's just reverse them both, take them into public ownership, run them as public services, make them better. Yeah. Instead of sending dividends to profit-hungry speculators, many of whom, in the water industry certainly, and to some extent in rail, don't
solution. It's an argument of the 1980s, I fear. Anyway.
Yeah. Also, Anna, could we just point out his beloved version of nationalisation? They've done that in Scotland. It's called ScotRail, and they've had a 30% cut in services. So nationalisation, Kevin, my dear, is not the answer. We just need these companies to run properly.
My dear, my dear.
Gentlemen, we've run out of time. Oh, dear. Andrew and Kevin, thank you both very much indeed. Lovely to see you both. Thank you.